Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. So we continue with the topic of develop cosmic love of Swami Shivananda. So Swami Shivananda writes, O man, where do you search for God? All these forms are manifestations of the Lord. See the Lord in these forms. If you serve all beings with Narayana Bhava, the inner attitude or feeling that all beings are manifestations of God, you really serve the Lord. Service of humanity is service of the Lord. So here Swami Shivananda explains that for a spiritual aspirant, humanity is the body of God. Humanity is the body of God. The whole of creation is the body of God. But for a spiritual aspirant, this is a very important aspect of the practice, because God does manifest in humanity, and as human beings, this is the primary way of how we should understand God, through other human beings. And there is this beautiful teaching of Lord Jesus where he says something like, I was hungry, you gave me food. I was naked, you gave me clothes. I was homeless, you gave me a home, etc. And then he says, and if you are asking, when did we do this to you? Right? We don't remember such a thing, especially 2,000 years later. Right? We didn't do this. And then he says, if you do it to the least of my brethren, you do it unto me. Which means service of humanity is the service of the Lord. So this is the vision of the yogis. This is the meaning of what is called Vishvaprem, or cosmic love. Because what is the purpose of Bhakti Yoga? Right? In Bhakti Yoga, we begin with worship. Many times people think that worshipping, like worshipping on the altar, offering flowers, etc. in the temple, is a type of a dualistic limiting practice, but it's exactly the opposite. Because when you offer a flower in the temple, where is God manifesting? Is God manifesting in the image in the temple? See, God manifests in your heart, right? God is always manifesting in one's heart as the indweller. So when we are cultivating devotion or bhakti, we are simply awakening the presence of God in our own heart. The presence of God is always in our own heart. We cannot exist without the presence of God. But it's a matter of recognition, right? So, like when we do the arati at the end of the satsang, right? So, when you do the arati, you wave the light. Arati means light, right? You are waving the light. The light represents knowledge, right? And we chant the names of God and names of saints, because they represent the knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. This is the meaning of arati. And then, so the question is, because, we have lots of things to do in the ashram, maybe while we are doing arati, on the other hand, you can hold the phone and be efficient. One hand can be to arati, and the other hand can be to the phone. Right? Or better yet, we are in the technological age. We can have a robot. We can call it the arati robot. I'm sure it's very easy to do. Arati bot, and that Arati bot can 24/7 can do Arati, and everyone gets the merit. See, we can do other things, right? Because we're very busy, and this robot will just do the Arati and the puja. It's not a problem to train the robot to throw the flowers in the right direction, and all those things are very doable. So the question is, why can't you do Arati while you are on the phone? See? Why not? Why a Arati robot is not an Arati robot? It's just a robot. See why? Because worship is not with the fire. Fire is a means to focus the mind. The actual worship is your recognition of the divine in what you are looking at. You understand? Worship is with awareness. When we are doing Arati, we are supposed to recognize the presence of God in what we are worshiping. That's the Arati. So the way to worship, what actually worships in the Arati, is your own awareness. This is the light. You understand? It's not the fire. The fire is just a means. Okay? But the fire is the means, the fire, the altar, etc., is a means to bring the recognition in our mind. You are standing before God. So, in Bhakti Yoga, we learn to worship God in a specific form. That's called Ishta Devata. So it can be Lord Krishna, Divine Mother, Lord Shiva, Lord Jesus, whatever we are inclined to worship God in. But the point is that it doesn't stop there. All forms are the forms of God. So Bhakti gradually expands. This is the meaning. There is a beautiful story that I heard some years ago about one of the close disciples of Swami Shivananda, Swami Sachitananda, and he was medically oriented, and so were many of his disciples. And he took them on a tour to hospitals in India to see various treatments, etc. And India is very famous for temples, right? So like you go, I don't know, to wherever you go, and there, that there are special features in that place. India, you go to India, you go to temples, because the temples are so powerful. So after going in the hospitals where he's showing them various treatments, someone told him, okay, now let's go to the temples. And then he scolded that person, and he showed the sick people in beds, and he said, these are your gods. See, we are in the temple. So this is the meaning. So the meaning is that service of humanity is the worship of God. This is what Swami Shivananda is saying, and we see it in the lives of great saints, right? If you look at the life of Swami Shivananda, this is what you see. You see service of humanity as a worship of God. If you look at the life of Swami Vishnudevananda, that's what you see. You see the service of humanity as the worship of God. So when we look at the lives of great saints, this is what we see in their life. We see that they relate to humanity as the body of God. This is the idea. So then Swami Shivananda says, if you cannot love and serve these manifestations of the Lord or visible gods, how will you be able to serve and love the unseen? So Swami Shivananda says, you see, because it's like, it's much easier to be nice and kind with strangers. Why? It's very simple. You don't know them, and you know that they don't know you. So it's two benefits. See, you don't know their defects, right? Because every person has a defect. You don't know who they are, so you can look at them very nicely, right? And they don't know your defects, which is a great plus, right? And therefore, you feel very easy with them, okay? There are no raga and dveshas playing in the relationship because you are strangers. It's much more difficult to do your spiritual sadhana with the people that are closest to you, that you do know their defects and they know your defects. You see? So in these relationships, it's more difficult and therefore more important, see, to apply the practices. Okay, so with strangers, it's easy. As long as they are strangers, it's easy. Okay? So Swami Shivananda is saying, how can we learn to really love God if we cannot love people, which are the manifested form of God? To love the unmanifest is way more difficult. You see, we think that it's easy. But the point is, you see, this is how God comes to us. God comes to us not only as happiness, as very difficult emotions and situations. This is also God. God doesn't come only as beautiful places. God comes as terrible places. See, Swami Shivananda says behind wars, hatred and riots is the hidden love of God. How can we see it if we cannot have patience with, the people that are close to us? So Swami Shivananda says that's impossible. See, so he says, first of all, we need to learn to love God in the manifest form. What is God in the manifest form? Humanity. Okay? If we think that we can love God in the temple and hate other people, we are deluding ourselves, Swami Shivananda says. This is not love of God. Okay? So the love of God should start in the temple and progress towards human beings, or start in human beings and progress to the temple. Depends what is more natural to us, but it should we should have the understanding that humans are the manifested form of God. Now, not only humans, cats also, but again, it's much easier with the cats, right? They are much more pleasant, right? So one of our cats is less pleasant, right? So it's the most, it's the one that people feel most to come and pet, because, he's fat and, like this. But the moment you come to him, immediately he starts to, he doesn't like that people touch him. So human beings are like this, they are difficult. And that difficulty, if we can understand that these qualities that human beings manifest are part of what the reality of God is, then we will grow spiritually. This is the idea. Otherwise, if we say, I worship God in the cats but not in humans, we will become spiritually stuck. That's the idea. Okay? If you want to enjoy really the supreme bliss of the non-dual self, If you want to become a real, practical Advaita Vedantin or a sage, try to comfort the sorrowful, help the poor, heal or nurse the sick. Can anyone who attempts to behold or realize the oneself, hidden in all beings, keep quiet without serving the humanity? All forms are the manifestations of the one Supreme Lord. All bodies belong to Him. When you shampoo the legs of a sick person, remember that you are shampooing the legs of the Lord. Means massaging. The legs of Virat or Saguna Brahman. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, it describing the cosmic form of God, he says with heads everywhere, with arms everywhere, with legs everywhere. This is the idea. So this is the cosmic form of God. Now, when we serve humanity, or when we serve creation, we have to be very intelligent. You see, we cannot disrupt the order of creation. This is not what knowledge means. We need to understand that. So Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he said it very beautifully. He said, all is God, but do not hug tigers. Because in the tiger, God does manifest as the tiger, not as something else. So we need to understand. So it doesn't mean that we need to disregard the order within creation. No. The order within creation is God. Everything has its place in creation. This is divinity. See, so it doesn't mean that if you see God in the tiger, now the tiger is going to greet you with namaste. It's not going to be like this. The tiger is going to remain a tiger, but you are able to recognize the divinity in the tigerness of the tiger. That's what it means. So for example, right, there is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives the beautiful story of the snake. And with this we'll finish, because this is about ahimsa, right? So people ask, if I practice compassion or cosmic love, do I need to become, right, in English it's called, do I need to become a doormat, right? Should I be a doormat, right? Like that everyone should step on me. Is this the meaning? And Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gave the following story. He said very briefly. He says there was a snake, and this snake was very, very ferocious. The snake was coming to the village and was biting and hurting people. And then one day a yogi came through the village, and the villagers told the yogi about their predicament, that they have this ferocious snake which is lurking in the field, etc., and biting people. And the yogi said, okay, let me take care of the situation. The yogi went to the field, and sure enough, the snake approached the yogi. And the yogi told the snake, I hear all those things about you. This is not becoming of a snake. You are harassing the people of the village. And the snake said, I'm a snake? What do you mean? And the yogi said, no. And the yogi gave a mantra to the snake. The yogi initiated the snake into a mantra and told the snake, you will practice ahimsa now. Okay. Ahimsa means non-violence. A year later, the yogi happened to pass by through the same village and asked the villagers, how is it going? And the villagers told the yogi, great, we killed the snake. What do you mean you killed the snake? That's not possible. And they told him, yes, we were wandering in the field and we saw that the snake is not attacking us anymore. So a group of kids came and they saw that the snake now is harmless. They grabbed the snake and they how do you call it? They took the snake and hit it on the rocks and then they threw it away, dead. And then the yogi said, this cannot be. He went to the field and he went to the hole of the snake and he called the snake out. And sure enough, the snake came. But the snake was totally broken and very, very thin, like hardly eating anything. And the yogi said, what happened to you? How can this be? And the snake told the story, exactly like the villagers said, that, the yogi instructed it to practice ahimsa, initiated into the mantra, started repeating the name of God, and it didn't hurt any of the villagers. And then the kids came and did what they did. And the yogi told the snake, you are a fool. This is not ahimsa. I told you not to bite. I didn't tell you not to hiss. So this is the meaning of ahimsa. Hissing means you need to respect the order. See, if someone comes to you in the wrong way, you are allowed to hiss. That's part of the order of God. You understand? But behind the hissing, don't hate. Try to understand this is another form of God. You understand? This is the meaning. So this is how Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa taught. He said you can hiss, don't bite. You have to respect the order of God as part of the recognition of the reality of God. This is the meaning. Okay? So here we start. Om, 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 Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Bolo Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Swami Vishnu Devananda Maharaj